Okay, we're going to get started with this next webinar or Hangout in our hands-on series with Mautic. I'm really excited about today's webinar because we're going to be looking at some pretty neat stuff in regards to the emails and campaigns. If you haven't had a chance yet to look at the previous webinar, you can do so off the link, which you'll see on the left-hand side there. It's mau.tc/hands-on-leads. Clicking that link or following that URL will take you to a webinar and slideshow from our previous webinar, and you'll be able to get caught up quickly. It's pretty easy, pretty nice to follow along. But today, we're going to be looking at emails and campaigns. So our agenda for the day, we're going to look at, first of all, the purpose of emails and campaigns. Then we're going to look closely at how emails are handled within Mautic, followed by how they're handled or how campaigns are handled within Mautic. And then lastly, we'll answer any questions that might come up. So again, we're looking at a deep dive at emails and campaigns within Mautic. Before we go in and look at Mautic in particular, what we want to do is review real quickly what emails and campaigns are and how they function within your marketing automation. Emails are usually and most often the central way to connect with your potential leads. These are typically the most common and useful ways in which you can gather information. You can provide information to your leads. And campaigns help you keep all of those emails and other points of contact and things like that organized, and they kind of give you a sort of a timeline of ways in which things are going to be handled step by step. And you'll see that as we look in detail at the Mautic campaigns. So if you want to think of it in terms kind of like emails are being the rungs and the campaign is the actual ladder, it might give you an idea of how the two relate to each other. Okay, so let's look at Mautic. Here what we have are the emails within Mautic. Now you're going to probably want to define your emails before you set up anything else. Remember from last time we discussed leads and lead lists. So when you're looking at your email overview here, you'll see the lead lists on the left-hand side. This is how you can filter emails to just what lists those emails are being sent to. Now this is different from campaigns, and I'll show you that in just a second. So at your email overview list here, what you can see quickly are the subjects, the categories, the number of times or leads that email has been sent to, the number that have read that email, and then if there's any pending, as well as the ID. And the ID is just a reference point for you. You'll notice next to this first one that we actually have a little icon here. This icon we'll get into in more detail in just a second. Yes, I'm going to leave you a little bit suspended there. You can also notice that you can very quickly toggle published and unpublished emails directly from your list view. In addition, you can edit, clone, delete, and send all from the list view as well. And the send will give you a confirmation prompt. Okay, so let's actually go into this first email, welcome to Mautic. When you open up the email, you will see a somewhat familiar screen. As you begin to work through the different areas of Mautic, you'll find that this overview screen remains relatively similar between all the different areas. It's to help give you a sense of familiarity and also know where to find things quickly when you go to different parts within Mautic. For example, in the details, you'll be able to see more of the specifics, some of the nitty-gritty related to that particular email, when it was created, who created it, when it was last modified, when it was published, and then what theme is used on that email. And of course, you can see those details as well if you're in the edit screen. But that's just a real quick way at which you can glance at some of those details behind the scenes type stuff. Now, what you notice below the graph is A/B testing. This is what that little icon was for in the list view. See, I didn't keep you suspended for too long. I jumped right into it. The A/B testing on emails is super cool because if you're familiar with landing pages, you're able to do A/B testing on landing pages, and that way you can tell which of those landing pages are converting the best for you, but you can now do that with your emails too. So you can send different sets of emails that contain the basic same information, but you can see which ones convert better for you. And it gives you a really nice way to fine-tune your email and your campaign as you build through the process. So other things that we see on this overview screen is a preview or online URL, which you can click and view. We'll do that in just a second. You can see recipients lists if there's any lists added to this particular email. And then you can see recent activity. So same as what you see on some of the other screens, and as well as if it's published or unpublished. So let's actually, if we were to add an A/B test, it's going to give you the option to edit the email. Now this is actually a variant of that welcome to email. So I'm going to cancel that for right now. What we'll do instead is we'll edit the parent. So this is that primary email, the first one that we clicked on. And what you'll find here are a bunch of different options, which if you're familiar with email marketing in any way, you should recognize most of these options. First of all, you have your subject, and then your custom HTML message block, which is the body of the email, and then a plain text version. And the reason that you want that, in case you're not familiar with it, is because some clients, some email clients, are not going to be able to interpret an HTML message. And so you want to provide them with a plain text version so that they can still see the important information that you're trying to share, regardless of whether or not it matches that very pretty layout that you've done before. Okay? That's the one way in which you can generate your email body and your message. There's actually another way, and that's where it gets pretty cool. The email builder. The email builder does more than what you could do or what you would maybe do with the HTML view. So what you saw is when I switched from custom HTML to email builder, it actually changed some of my options on the screen. Now I have a theme option and I have a button to launch the email builder. If you've already been peeking around in Mautic and you've kind of looked at the campaigns and things like that, then you're going to recognize the similarities here. And if not, don't worry, we're going to get into campaigns in this webinar in just a couple minutes. So you would select a theme and then you would launch the email builder. When you launch this, it's going to load up a new window that's going to allow you to add content directly to an email in a nice user editable version. It's all real pretty, it's all inline, it's pretty awesome. Because what you can do is you can do things like, okay, I want to put the standard unsubscribe text in my footer, drag and drop it into place. Or perhaps you want to say, okay, I want to actually put a link for them to be able to view this email on the web. I'm just going to insert a web view message and link, drop it in, and it's good to go. You can also write your email out and include any of the lead fields. So you can quickly scroll through, you can find a field that you wanted to select, and you can add that directly to the email. So like a mail merge function, if you think about it like that. So there is last name, I'll just throw that in there. Obviously, once you see the pattern, you can actually add any field you want just by changing that tab out. Easy to do, incredibly simple to do. And you've got this really nice toolbar that'll let you make changes and make modifications. All you have to do is select and make your standard changes, just as like you would in Word or like Google Docs. We like open source stuff, so LibreOffice, things like that. All the same types of functionality you'll have right here in screen, inline. Pretty cool. When you're done adding all the fields that you want, you would come up here and you just say close builder. And you'll notice for that split second there, it does that Ajax save. So it's saving everything out. And then here you just want to add the same as before, any plain text version, because that email builder is using all that special and super cool HTML stuff. Now, because this is a variant type of deal where we have A/B testing going on, you can actually specify a traffic weight. So how much of the recipients should receive this particular version of the email. And then you can also define what the criteria is for who would be declared a winner in that A/B test. All of those two features right there, you won't see if you're doing just a single email. Those things will only show if you're doing A/B testing on your email. Okay, so you may not see that if you're doing just a straight email. Don't worry about it. If you do want to have the option of adding traffic weighting and the A/B test winner, then you just have to have two versions or two variants of that email to send. You'll notice that if I switch back from email builder to custom HTML, it still has my previous information. So I don't lose that if I wanted to try to play around with that email builder and then change my mind and decided just to use the custom HTML. So it's still here in place. So I'm just going to cancel that out and close it out. That email is published and ready to send. Now, there's a bunch of different places where we can use that email. So that's a real brief overview of how those emails are set up and how you create them. I want to show you one other thing in just a second in regards to those email themes, but I'll do that last. So first we'll look at the emails like we've just done. Now we'll look at the campaigns. We'll see how they kind of tie together. We'll go through an experimental workflow, and then I'll show you a little bit more about the dev side of how, if you wanted to do custom themes, you could do so. So let's look now at the campaigns. Now, the campaigns are like the heart of marketing automation because these are the ways in which you can automate all of those points of contact while still being personal, but automate it so that you don't have to be spending your time doing each and every step manually. And once you're saving time, you have more time to do the things you should be doing in your business. So we have a sample campaign here, a welcome email campaign. You'll notice the list view looks relatively familiar, similar to what we've seen on the other screens. You have the edit, the clone, and the delete option. You have the publish and unpublish toggle. You have the category if you have one set. We'll go ahead and open that campaign up. Now, when I open this campaign up, I can see a bunch of stats again on this first page. First of all, I can see the leads that have been added over time and on what day they were added. I can see the email statuses for the emails that have been sent, and then I can see page views if my email had a link to a specific page, things like that, like landing pages. At the bottom, we've got three tabs. We have decisions, actions, and leads. And so what you'll see here first with decisions are decisions taken by the user, opens welcome email or opens a reminder email, and you can see the percentage that have done this decision. And then you'll also see this nice color bar across the top that gives you a very quick visual of how many have opened or responded to that particular decision. Okay? The actions tab is similar. This is all the actions that happen within this campaign. And we'll come back and look at this again after we have gone in and edited the campaign so that you have an idea, first of all, of what all these things represent and then how they tie together. Okay, so just briefly here, we'll notice that there are actions to sending an email, removing, adding points, sending the welcome, and sending a reminder. Okay, so those are all the different actions that are happening within this campaign, and you can see again the percentage of people that have completed this particular action. Leads will show you all the leads that are currently attached to this campaign. Okay, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Now, again, just like with before, the details will show you more options, some of the nitty-gritty, when it was created, stuff like that. It's there if you want to see it. We'll go into the edit campaign view now. Now you'll notice on this campaign, I have a warning across the top. That warning is because this campaign is currently published. You saw on the previous screen it had the green toggle. That's because this campaign is currently running. So it puts a warning here to remind you that if you modify events or remove lead lists, it's going to affect leads that may be in the middle of this particular campaign. Okay, so it's not an error on your screen. It's just letting you know, be careful, what you're doing affects live leads and lead lists. So just like with before, you have a name for your campaign. You have what lead lists you want to attach this campaign to, and you can see you can add or remove them, and you can have multiple lead lists per campaign. And then you also have a description block. Now, the heart of the campaign is the campaign builder. And some have already been experiencing the power of this campaign builder. And just like what we saw with the email builder, the campaign builder is super, Super cool. And it allows you to do so many different things with just drag and drop. You don't have to write all these fancy rules and these follow paths and things like that. It's all just drag and drop. So let's look at this sample campaign. Now, there's a lot of stuff happening on the screen here. So don't panic. We'll go through it one bit at a time. You'll notice on the right-hand side, we have two blocks. We have actions and we have decisions. Remember, if you will, on that previous screen, the bottom, we had actions and decisions. Okay, so you see how those relate. And they're color-coded, so it's easy for you to see what's an action and what's a decision. If you can't see that, these are outlined with the Mautic blue, and you'll see that these items here are outlined with that same Mautic blue. And then the decisions are outlined with green. And you can see the decisions here in green. Okay? Now, if I were to just real quick scroll down here, so I have an empty canvas, this is what it would normally look like when you launched the campaign builder for the first time. And so usually what you want to do is figure out, okay, what's my starting point for campaign? Well, in most cases, your campaign may begin by sending an email. So you'll click and drag send email onto your canvas. Name it, this is my initial email. And then obviously, if this is the first one, you may not want to add a delay, so we'll ignore that section for right now. And then lastly, just choose the email that you want to send. And you'll see that it gives you all the emails that are currently in your system. You also have the option right here of creating a new email. So clicking this will load a pop-up, which you won't be able to see on your screen right there, but it loads a pop-up and allows you to enter a new email just as if it were being done from that other screen that we saw previously. And then once you've done that, you would simply say add, and it drops that action directly onto the canvas. You can delete this action. You can also edit the action. Okay, so if you need to make a change, you can do that very easily. Okay, so now you get the idea of how this works. Now, if I were to follow this through, and again, I'll do just the next step, and then we'll go back up and we'll look at that campaign that's already been built. But so maybe the next step after initial email is opens the email. That's the decision. So the action that you take is going to be sending the email. The decision that the potential lead must take is whether they open the email or don't. So for the name, we'll leave it blank. And then limit to these selected emails, we'll leave it empty to default to the connected send email action. So I'm just going to click add. Okay, so I actually didn't have to change anything in that modal. Now what I can do is I can connect this initial email to this open email, just like that. And now they're connected, so I can drag this around any which way I want to, and they're connected. Now, what this says is my initial email, and now you saw what I did there was double click. So you can click the edit button, or you can double click on the initial email. When you double click on the initial email, you'll be returned to the modal, so you can see the stuff that was in there before, or you can make changes if you wanted to. Okay, you have two options on the open email decision. Green, yes, they opened the email, and red, no, they did not open the email. Okay. And so you saw how we connected those two quite easily. We'll go ahead and remove these two from this campaign, and we'll scroll back up to what's already been built. So you'll see this campaign has send welcome. If I double click on this to load the modal, I can see that it says send email, sends the welcome, no pause, and it sends the welcome to Mautic email. Okay. The next step is opens the welcome email. Now remember, we have yes, they opened it, or no, they did not, green and red. So if they open the welcome email, we want to add 10 points to their account. So you'll see that this is adjust lead points, and I named it add 10 points just so I'd know what it represented, and then I put in 10 points down here. And maybe I want to do something else. So not only do I want to give them 10 points, but I also want to have another action triggered. And this action is to send a getting started email. So once they've opened the welcome email, I want to give them 10 points, and I want to send them a getting started one. But I don't want to send that getting started email immediately. I actually have a pause in here of wait 1 day. So if I open this up, send email, it's the same action as the first one, only this time I have a delay for an interval of 1 day. And then I pick whatever email I have in the system that I want to send. Okay. So what that does then is it pauses for 1 day, and then it sends a getting started email. All right, so you get the idea of how this flow works. Then after this getting started email, we'd have another decision. They open the getting started email, and then you'd have yes, they opened it, or no, they did not. The same thing again, continuing down this path. Okay, but for the purpose of this sample campaign, let's also look at what happens if they don't open that welcome email. If they don't open that welcome email, we maybe still want to follow up with them and see if maybe they are interested after all, but they just weren't at that particular moment. So we put a new email in here, send email. We're going to call this a reminder email. We're going to pause this email for 7 days. And then after 7 days, we'll select what email we want to send. And maybe we want to send just some other random email in the system here. Okay. Their decision based on that action is whether or not they opened the reminder email. So this is that moment when, hey, now maybe they weren't apparently interested at this initial point, but we waited 7 days, we sent them something, and actually now they did open it. So yes, they opened the email. Well, we want to still give them 10 points because they did open the email. Now you may want to give them 5 points. See, this is where it comes down to the logic of your business and how you want to structure things. You may not want to give them the same amount of points if they waited 7 days before they actually responded to something you said, or you may say, hey, they're still interested at this early stage in the campaign. We'll still give them that full 10 points. Remember that the lead has no idea about these points. The points are simply your way as a business of keeping track of which leads are interested and most ready for you to contact them personally. So just like before, if they open that reminder email, we'll also send them a second one to have them get started, and we'll pause 1 day before we do that. If they didn't open the reminder email, we may at this point decide to remove them from this list and the campaign, because maybe we want to keep them. So this doesn't delete the lead, but what it does is it removes them from this particular welcome list as well as from this campaign. So it's a way in which you can make sure that you're not nagging people to death if they're really not interested, but you're not actually losing their contact information. Okay? So that's a sample campaign. So if we were to actually close this builder out, and we'll just close this out as well, and let's actually go all the way back to our leads. Let's see if we can't look at this in action. And what we want to do is we'll want to create a lead and then see if it actually works for us. So let's quick add a lead, and I'll just add my information in here. And save that. Now that campaign is currently published, okay? And it's attached to a lead, or to a lead list, excuse me. So if we have this user now who is a lead in our system, and we don't have anything other than an email address, we probably would have an IP address if they had manually browsed to the site. But in this case, since I've manually added it, we have just the name and email address. We have no engagements, no points, really no history, notes, or social, or anything like that because they're brand new. But what we'll do is we'll add this lead to that welcome lead list. Okay, so now I've added them. Now, if I flip over to my email client just now, as this user, I have an email. Welcome to Mautic. So it has added that lead to the lead list, and it's triggered the campaign. So if I open this up, what I have here is my message from my email. Okay, so now let's go back here into the back end of the system, and let's refresh this particular lead. And now look what happened. We have all sorts of information. First of all, it recognized based on my current location that I'm in the US based on my IP address. And if I scroll down, I can see that information. Okay, so I can see that that welcome to Mautic email was sent. And then I can also see that email was read. It also tells me that that email was read 20 seconds after the email was sent. And then it tells me, well, as part of the welcome email campaign, because it was read, we're going to add 10 points. And then it also keeps track of the IP address by which I browsed. Okay. So just like that, I now have a much fuller history because I've clicked on that email. I'm still in that list, so I'll begin to receive additional emails upcoming that fall into that campaign. I can also see I've been given the 10 points, and I can see in my graph here a nice pretty increase in my lead points total. All done automatically. So if I have a form set up and my form has the submit action of capturing their name and email and also adding them to a list, then all of these things will happen automatically. And I won't have had to do a thing as the business owner. It's pretty powerful, right? So that in a nutshell is how you see marketing automation really come to life. This is how it works, because now all of a sudden, all those campaign workflow triggers, let's go back and look at that campaign. If I open up that welcome email campaign and I look at the edit for the actual campaign builder, now what I can expect is that tomorrow I'll get a getting started email. Again, all of that being automated. As a business owner, I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to manually contact that lead, send the email, wait and send them another one. I can automatically begin adding points to them, getting them more engaged all along the process, doing it personalized, because as you saw in the emails, we can use those form fields to make it a personal email that goes to them. And the whole time, we're able to do this 24/7, around the clock, to every potential lead and do it automatically. That's pretty cool. That's the power of marketing automation. And I'm just showing you emails in campaigns. If we look at that campaign builder on the right-hand side, we have tons of other actions as well. So we can actually change campaigns. We can do more. We can update a lead with different information. Decisions can be things not just opening emails, but maybe they submit a form on the site, or they visit a particular page, or they download an asset. And remember, we talked about all those features later in the earlier webinar, and we'll probably look at them in more depth coming up in a future Hangout. For example, though, if you were to tweet out a link to a PDF, you could have this download asset be the trigger. And you could give them 10 points, and you could do all the same things that we've done here with emails, but we're doing it through social media instead. So you have the power of doing so many different things with your campaigns, all automated and yet still personal, and save bunches of time. So that's campaigns and emails. Now, we looked at how it works all the way through, which I think is pretty cool because you get to see the entire flow. You can see how the lead gets updated. You can see all that information. Let's actually do just a little bit of Q&A. If you have any questions, we have about 10 minutes left in this webinar or Hangout, and I'm happy to handle or answer any questions that you have. So if you'll just use the questions application within the Hangouts, I'll get to those. You can also ask questions later in the forums or in the chat on mautic.org or on mautic.slack.com. To get started with some basic questions to get going, how do emails get sent and what service is used? So emails can be sent through a variety of services. You actually don't have to be tied to any particular one. Again, this is one of the beautiful things about Mautic being a free and open source, self-hosted, or even managed hosted version of marketing automation. You don't have to be tied to whatever mail server your SaaS-based third-party, ridiculously expensive marketing automation tool uses. You can choose whether maybe you like SendGrid or Mandrill or Amazon SES, Gmail, or just straight up IMAP. You can use whatever setting you want to for your email sending. You can even use the server email sending. It's important to note that if you do use the email on the server itself to send your emails, you want to make sure that you're not sending too many emails at any one time because there's a possibility that your server could be blacklisted as a result of sending too much. So keep that in mind. If you start to see high volumes of emails being sent, you'll want to switch to using some third-party service. And most of these have very reasonably priced options But they're white labeled, so they'll never get blocked by your client at the end. It won't be marked as spam by their email recipient. You'll make sure your message gets delivered. Okay, starter question 2. How often is too often for campaigns to be triggered? So this is a tricky one, and I don't have an exact answer. So I'm not trying to be coy with my answer here that they should meet the expectations of your target market. But in reality, the truth is each campaign should be tailored for that lead that's receiving it. And if that lead expects to be contacted every day, maybe you want to give some sort of a tutorial series. For example, if you were to sign up on Mautic.com to get a free hosted version of Mautic, you'll begin to receive a daily email that tells you something about Mautic and how to implement it in your marketing automation. So for that particular campaign, Mautic.com has determined that one email a day is not too much and it's not too few, but it gives you just the right amount of information, one thing to accomplish that day. Now, you may have other campaigns in different environments where one email every day would be highly obnoxious and you would never want to send that many. Instead, what you may want is to do one every week, maybe every Tuesday. You send out an email newsletter style. You have to determine what the expectations are for your target market and then send your emails accordingly. Okay, so your campaigns are more than just emails. I've touched on them heavily today because that's really the key, the focus of what this particular Hangout's about. We'll look at some more ways in which you can contact and communicate with your leads in future webinars. The next one, I believe, we'll be looking at things like the landing page and the power of that. And we'll also look at forms because those two, forms and landing pages, tie in really closely together. So if you're interested in that Hangout, it's going to be on Wednesday, March 18, provided there's nothing that comes up. But you can actually check into that live, or you'll be able to watch it just like you have with any of the other Hangouts recorded through our blog. So at this time, I'm going to look and see if we have any questions and then answer those, and then you'll be all set and you'll be empowered. Okay, so first question. Will it be possible in the future to import, upload HTML landing page or squeeze page templates from other sources? For instance, I make a landing page with WordPress or build it from scratch and copy paste it to Mautic. Oh, that's a great question. In fact, let me see if I can pull up what I meant to show you earlier when we were looking at leads, and that is, or looking at the emails, and that was the custom templates. So give me just 1 second. And let me switch my screen around. So let's see here. Let's share a different screen with you. Okay, so now what we're looking at here is the root of my Mautic installation. Okay, and now we're getting into a little more dev stuff. So don't tune out if you're not a dev, but you can just kind of take a back seat and look at it. Interested but not super interested. Okay, so we have a themes folder, and in the themes folder we have all the themes that you'll see in the various drop downs. Okay, remember that when we were creating that email, before we did the email, we had the option of creating or choosing a theme, and we chose the mauve theme. Well, so here's that folder or that theme right here. So we could look at each of these in detail if we wanted to. Basically, the config gives you the name and tells you what slots are available, things like that. From a dev perspective, this is basically just a definitions type of file. But then under the HTML, what you'll see is a base, an email, a form, a message, and a page. Now, we haven't got into all those different areas yet, but you will notice that we have an email.html.php. So if you wanted to code out exactly what that email body or that email template should be, you would do so right here. And you can even attach your own CSS. Obviously, if you're getting into this level of development, you will have to keep in mind things like email needs to have inline styles and some of the different nuances involved with email templating. But again, you're able to do so. And once you create a theme like this, it's then available for use by anyone that's using your marketing automation instance. So anyone else that goes into Mautic would then be able to select that theme for their emails. So it's a way to provide consistency across all of your emails, as well as integrating with pages. And we'll look at the page in the next one, the next Hangout, when we look at landing pages and forms. So I'm not going to touch on that today. In fact, at the end of the next Hangout, if we have time, I could even get into the code if there's enough interest. And look at these exact pages in email and the HTML layouts and things like that. So if you're interested in seeing more of the actual code for how you would create a theme, then send us a message. Let me know either on the events page or in the Mautic community forums somewhere, so that we know for the next webinar to go ahead and touch on the actual HTML involved with creating a page or creating an email. For now, in this session, I'm simply going to show you the location of these themes, and know that if you create a theme, it will be available within Mautic for you to select for future emails, landing pages, things like that. Okay? So that is the way in which you can create those customized pages and then use them through Mautic. So if you wanted a dev to create those pages and then you just wanted to go in, you would be able to go into Mautic itself, not knowing any code, select that theme or that template, and then add your own content. The other part of the question was, what about making a landing page with WordPress? So what we've done with Mautic is pretty cool. We've actually integrated with all your major CMS systems. So, and I hate to mention them all because I might miss somebody, but Joomla and WordPress and Drupal and Concrete 5 and Typo 3, all these major open source CMS systems, we have plugins already written. And what they do right now are somewhat limited. They allow you to insert forms. They allow you to do some cool stuff with some modals. And they also have that tracking pixel stuff. What we anticipate seeing, perhaps in 1.1, 1.2, is taking that to an entirely new level, something that nobody else is currently doing, and allowing you to create your entire page, your entire landing page within your CMS, and then simply just add the form element into that page. So your marketing automation tool is completely and totally integrated directly into your website. It's not something that has to get shoved off to a third party or a SaaS-based web landing page. It's all stored right within your CMS. So that's kind of where we're at. And some of it is working already. Some of it still needs some tweaking, but that's the direction we're heading. And it's pretty cool because nobody else is doing that. And it really allows you to be fully integrated and not have to make it feel like there's a disjoint in that user experience between on-site and off-site, landing page and main website, that type of thing. So the themes are right here. You've seen how to do that. You can create your landing pages within your CMS and then integrate the form into them, all that type of thing. And if you wanted to create your landing page somewhere else and then put that HTML, you could do that directly and then put that HTML into these pages here. And again, if you want to see those in detail and we go into the code, I'm happy to do that. Just leave us a note on the Google page or in the community forum. Next question. Can Mautic be used like AC mailing to send emails to large lists, 40,000 plus, through third-party services like Amazon SES? That, my friend, is a great question. And I did answer it just a second ago, but just in case you were coming late or just in case you didn't see it, I'm sure there'll be someone else that has the same question. So let's look at that again. Question is, can we use different services? And the short answer is yes, absolutely. So thank you for that question. The benefit, one of the many benefits of Mautic over these other SaaS-based solutions is that you can choose what service provider you want to use, what third-party service, for example, Amazon SES, like was mentioned by Sunny, or by SendGrid or Mandrill or any other option. In fact, the way it's configured within Mautic, you can actually use any email system that you want to use. Some of them already have all the details in place. So MailChimp and some of these other ones, you just simply have to put in basic API details. And then other ones, you can actually add the custom IMAP information in yourself. So great question. Absolutely, you can use whatever service provider you like best, because we know everybody likes customization and everybody has a favorite. Last question I have here is actually one that we've kind of touched on already, and that's how to create a theme. I kind of touched on that just a second ago, but if you do want to see it in more detail, be sure to let us know, and in the future, on the next Hangout, we can actually dig more into the code itself and show you how you would actually create the CSS file and then the HTML files that would be associated with a landing page, as well as we'll step back and look at how you would create an email template or email theme if you wanted to do that as well. So mention it in the community forums, mention it on the Google page if that's something you'd like to see. So again, I really want to thank you for tuning in and for listening to this session and this Hangout. Be sure to share it with others so that they know the power of Mautic and what it can do for them in their business and with marketing automation. Share it on social media. Talk us up, help us grow. We're seeing some fantastic things happen as far as our Mautic meetups happening around the world. So if you want to do this in person and get more hands-on in a personal setting, we're actively getting more and more community members on board with setting those up. Be sure to check that out as well. If you haven't yet had a first-hand look at Mautic, you can do so by downloading it at mautic.org or by creating your free account at mautic.com. And until next time, thank you so much.